Welcome back. This week it's another early look, though I tend to do reviews. I haven't really played anything of late that I care to really put the time into review. Valheim has blown me out of the water, and that's not the only game to grab my interest. Loop Hero has a free demo, link in description, and for a demo it's consumed more of my attention and time than I care to mention. And before I go on, please consider subscribing. Thanks. The Lich has thrown the world into chaos. You, as the hero, rebuild that world via cards, how they remember it. It's an amazing premise that feeds into the infinite adventure dialogue. What do we have to do here then? Set out on your adventure and a new loop is created. The cards you have access to serve as several things. Landscapes such as meadows, rocks and mountain ranges will provide boosts to your hero, such as healing X amount per day. Other cards include spider cocoons and cemeteries, for example, that spawn enemies along your path. So make your own adventure. Why the hell would you want to do that though? Well, you'll need to sustain your hero's experience and loot. Before going out on an adventure, you may upgrade the camp with a blacksmith that will give you some basic armour and a sword at the start of your next run, or a herbalist which grants you health and potions and so on. This meta feeds directly into the loop, as it were, very nicely. The camp also unlocks more cards, and some are more useful, such as the village, which will grant you a quest as you pass through it when out on an expedition, or a lantern that reduces enemy spawns on the tiles that it's next to. Others will complement each other. Top tip, put a grove and a blood grove next to the camp for when the boss fight starts. You will also unlock the ability to learn traits as well, granted at certain levels, to aid you, such as an attack increase by a percentage of your defense, or regeneration increase when your HP drops to a certain level. It also appears new heroes can be unlocked, but not here in the demo version. Movement and combat are an automated affair, and when you run into an enemy you'll get this combat screen pop up. You have no control over this, just ensure you are geared up well enough to win through. While I appreciate that some may not like this mechanic, trust me, it fits very well here, and it's pretty much what the entire game is based around. As you go around the loop, the enemies will level up and increase in number and difficulty, and the game will not just wait for you to put down a grove or a vampire mansion. Some creatures will remember themselves into existence too. So finding a very careful balance of card placement, trait selection and what gear you use is key to success. Certain cards will also grant you resources that feed back into your camp. This is where the rail fun comes in, and it can get very full on after a few trips round. You may not always be successful, and you can leave a run at almost any time, not in combat though, with 60% of your resources that you've collated so far, and after a while you will know if a run is going to fail or not. However, play your cards right and eventually the boss will appear, depending on how many cards you have played. The meter in the top left clearly indicates how close he is to appearing. All the while you are grappling against how many cards to put down, what loot and traits to use, in the hope that you will have enough power to defeat the boss. The retro style is through the roof, and I can imagine playing this on the C64 or the likes quite easily. It's a great fit. It sometimes feels like a dev has just gone for a retro route simply for the novelty value and presumably costing, but this feels like it's firmly part of the entire package. Though not impossible, I imagine Loop Hero with modern day cartoon style graphics or something along the 3D lines quite easily, but it just wouldn't have had the same effect. This is where I give away how ancient I am. Back in my day, in the 80s, this is what games looked like for the most part, and a high degree of imagination was required, and often the elaborate and surreal box art of games would fill in those gaps. For example, see, this is clearly a skeleton, this a blood golem, and this a goblin. Those were the days indeed, and Loop Hero takes me back not only in visuals but in sound too, and it adds so much to the game that it gives it a dark and sinister feel. Just have a listen. Reminiscent of Ghosts and Goblins and Monty Mole. While this is only the demo, it's a very generous offering that gives a good few hours of play and a great insight to what we can expect when the game comes to release on the 4th of March. It's difficult to say how the full game will compare with a demo, but it's a fairly safe bet to say it's going to be quite the addictive game in its full form. That, and it's a very original concept, and it's executed very well aesthetically, along with its atmospheric sound design. Makes me want to jump on my BMX and nip down to the computer shop and pick up a copy on cassette and get 10 Regal King Size while I'm at it. Really looking forward to this on the full release. Cheers.